Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we are going to be looking at 5 different ways to do a gel polish ombre. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now we are going to be using a couple of colours from the new Hema free range. These are all of the shades that very recently released. I will leave the dedicated video for those linked in the description box below. But first up we're going to be using a True Nude and Lavender Lust, as well as the ombre brush. Now this is a must-have for any kind of ombre, especially if you want that flawless blend. Now the first design that we're going to be starting off with is your classic ombre. So this is usually where you use 2 colors. A lot of the time it will be a nude at the cuticle area zone and then a color at the tip, but of course you could do 2 colors if you prefer. So I've come in with a True Nude at the cuticle area, and you want to take this roughly halfway to 3/4 of the way down the nail, and then we're taking our color, which in this case is a Lavender Lust, at the tip of the nail, and then we're going to start blending directly in the center where those 2 colors meet. And then off camera, when I'm taking my brush out of shot, I'm just cleaning it up on an alcohol wipe. I will show you this better in the second ombre. So once we've blended out that harsh line, you want to start blending into that new transitional line that you've created. So here I'm taking the True Nude and just blending it in, and then I was happy with how this looked, so I popped this in to cure. Now your first coat is never going to look perfect. It always is going to look a lot better on your second coat. So in all honesty, don't waste too much time stressing about getting the perfect blend on that first coat. Now on the second coat, if I'm using a lighter shade at the cuticle area, I like to take this right down over that blend that we created. Then I'm going to come in with Lavender Lust and pop that in the remaining section of the nail, and we're going to do very similar to before. So we're blending out that line where the 2 colors meet, nice light gentle feathery strokes, taking the ombre brush backwards and forwards, making sure that you're getting right out to those sides as well, because it's very easy to miss those. And we're basically blending those 2 colors together, and it's going to create a transitional shade. And at first this might look a little bit patchy, a little bit uneven, so what you want to do is take that transitional shade and blend it into each color if needed. So on the first coat I felt as though it was needed a lot more with the True Nude. On the second coat it was needed a lot more with the Lush Lavender. And that's a very simple ombre. These 2 colors especially blended together effortlessly. A lot of the time if you're starting out in ombres, I would recommend using 2 light shades and 2 that have a similar consistency. So these 2 have a very nice creamy consistency. Then all that's left to do is come in and top coat. So I'm using the Hema free top coat. We've popped that in to cure for 60 seconds, and as you can see we've created a beautiful blend and we've got a lovely high shine thanks to that top coat. Now on to the second design. One of my favorite things to do with an ombre is to add nala over the top. So we're going to talk about a few other things doing this ombre as well. This is very similar to the first one. So I'm coming in here, and on this one I want to have my colour a little bit more just at the tip of the nail. So I've brought my True Nude further down the nail, and then we're using a Barbie Pink at the tip. Now the other reason I did this as well is because Barbie Pink is very pigmented and very bright compared to our nude, so it's going to take a little bit more blending. So I've started blending that transitional shade, and this is one of the alcohol wipes that I mentioned. This is what I clean off my brush with. Now when you are blending a brighter colour with a lighter colour or a darker colour with a lighter colour, you're going to clean off your brush a lot more. So I'm going back in, blending that transitional shade, creating that transitional shade in the center, and then I'm cleaning off my brush. Now like I said, don't waste loads of time on your first coat because you don't really see this anyway. So I always just do a quick blend on my first coat, and we'll focus more on that blend on my second coat. On to the second coat, and I'm just showing you guys here, you don't need to have lots of gel polish on your brush. I like to clean off one side of the brush and just have a little bit of gel polish on the bottom half of the other side. And then we're going to take that roughly halfway to 3/4 of the way down the nail, covering up that blend that we created. And then I'm going to come in with the Barbie pink more on the tip of the nail. Then this time I've already cleaned off my brush from that first coat. So we're starting with a nice clean brush, creating that transitional shade where those two colours meet. And it's going to look quite harsh at first because, like I said, the Barbie pink is a lot brighter than True Nude. So we've created that additional transitional shade, and then I'm blending the True Nude into that transitional shade that we've created in the center. So we're doing the same again, but we're treating it like another color, if that makes sense. So we're blending that out, and that really softens that harsh ombre that we originally had. And then we're going to do the same again with the transitional shade in the center and the Barbie pink at the tip. And then a lot of the time when I'm working with two quite different colors like we are here, I'll come in and out in certain areas where I feel they need a little bit more blending. And I will clean off my brush quite a lot as well, because you don't want to end up muddying the colors by taking too much of one color into the next. Then we're going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. Now on the top of this design, we're going to be doing some foils and some decals. So I'm going to start off by taking the Kiki London foil gel and applying a thin coat of this to the entire nail. Now, although we're not applying foils to the entire nail, when you're working with gel polish, you want to make sure that you've got really nice, even layers. So by applying it to the entire nail, we're going to have an overall really smooth, even finish. Then I'm going to take my foil. So I've got the classic coloured metallics. I believe that's what these are called. I'll double check and leave it linked in the description box below. But I'm going to cut off a small part of this matte silver one because I really liked the look of this one. And then we're going to scrunch it up because I want to have this shattered abstract effect, and these foils adhere really easily. So by scrunching it up, it breaks it up a little bit so that you don't get a full cover look with the foil, because we don't want to cover up that ombre. Whenever I'm doing any kind of ombre design where I want to put nail art on top, I still try to perfect my blend as much so that we've got a nice blend that you're still going to see. And this way we're putting the nail art over the top, but we're not covering up that beautiful ombre that we've created underneath. We're just enhancing it with our nail art. So I've done my foils, and then on top of my foils, I'm going to come in and apply my water decal. And I'll tend to try and use ones that are, again, not going to cover up the design too much. So this one is just a black outline design. So we've cut that out closer to the image, popped it face down onto my jelly stamper. I'm going to take my angled nail art brush and use this to apply some water to that backing paper. Give it a good little rub in, and then you want to wait around 10 seconds for that to soak in, and then that backing paper will easily slide off. Now the Kiki London silicone tool is a must have for applying your decals and getting a super smooth, seamless finish. So what I'm going to do is I've removed that backing paper. I'm going to line up my decal where I want it to go and press down, give it a little wriggle and pull off. And then I'm going to come in with my silicone tool and really rub over the water decal. This is going to get out any creases, but it also gives a super seamless finish, because where you're rubbing it in to that tacky layer that's left behind from your gel polish, it's just going to make sure there's no edges sticking up, and it's really hard to even notice that it's a water decal. So again, once we've finished this, you do need to come in and top coat. So we're taking that Hema free top coat, and I like to just float on the top coat whenever I'm going over any kind of nail art. Another thing I wanted to mention when doing the previous two ombres is, when you do your ombre, don't be stressed if you see any brush strokes, because once you leave this to settle for a few seconds before putting it in the lamp, those brush strokes do minimize, but then you don't see those brush strokes when you come over the top and top coat anyway. As you can see here, we've got a super seamless high shine finish. Next up, we have the free color ombre. So very similar to your classic ombre, but you're going to be using 3 colors. You can do this with as many colors as you like, but I would bear in mind that the more colors you use, the trickier it gets. So the main thing to do when you're doing this ombre is to look at the length of the nail you want to be working on and breaking it down into 3 even sections. So obviously I'm working on quite a long nail here, so I've sectioned out those as evenly as possible so that there's not too much of one color and too little of another. And then we're going to start blending those colors together. So again, on your first coat, don't stress about creating an ombre, just simply blend those colors together so that there's not a harsh line where they meet. So I'm just coming in, creating that transitional color first of all between the True Nude and the Lavender Lust, And then I'm just perfecting it a little bit, just making sure that those two colours have blended nicely. You're working in a smaller zone, so you have to be quite careful. And then once I've done that, we're going to blend the Lavender Lust and the Barbie Pink together. Again, because a lot of the Kiki London colours have quite a creamy consistency. So if you pick colours that have a similar consistency and similar sort of base colour to them, they blend together a lot easier than saying blending a creamy consistency colour with a neon. Now, of course, those two colours will blend, it'd just be a little bit trickier. So once we've done that first coat, we're going to come in and apply our colours again and do the second coat. Now, when you are applying your colours for your ombre, you want to make sure those colours are meeting. So you'll see whenever I've done any of the gel polish ombres, I've made sure that that second coat touches up against the first colour that we used and so on. Just double check that you haven't got any of the previous gel polish colour on your brush before you pop it back in your bottle, because you don't want to contaminate your colours. Then again, we're going to go in light feathery strokes with the ombre brush. Because the video is sped up, it looks like I'm working quite quickly. You don't want to work too quickly with the gel polish because that will put bubbles in there. So you want to make sure you're using nice light feathery strokes, and I use for the very sort of tip of the ombre brush, and because it has nice thin bristles at the end, they just blend the colours together effortlessly. Honestly, before having this ombre brush, I struggled with gel polish ombres so much, but this brush does a lot of the work for you. You just got to learn how to control it. So if you're struggling, I would instantly say reach for similar creamy consistency colours and just keep practicing the control with your brush. Nice light strokes, don't go in too heavy, because if you go in too heavy, you end up pulling that gel polish off at the sides. So just nice light feathery strokes using the very tip of that brush. Now I am going to pop a little bit of hand painted nail art over this ombre, just because I wanted to show you guys how pigmented the new classic black is. I am loving it for any kind of hand painted nail art. Now, I ain't the best at hand painted nail art. I went through a phase where I was doing a lot of it and I started getting better because, you know, the more you practice something, the easier it becomes. And then I didn't do hardly any hand painted nail art for a while, and now I feel like I've gone back a few steps. So we're just going in and doing some simple leaves coming over the two blend areas. Like I said, when I'm doing any kind of nail art on top of an ombre, I try to focus it on the areas where the blend is, but you don't want to fully cover up that blend. But like I said, I just left this in, or I just added this to the video because I wanted to show you guys the pigmentation in classic black is amazing. It's very similar to black heart, and a little bit goes a long way. So I'm just popping down a small amount onto my striped liner brush, and that pigmentation really shows through. You're not going to need two coats when it comes to doing your nail art. So once we'd added on those little leaves, we're going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds, and then we're going to come in with our Hema free no wipe top coat and just apply a thin coat of this. Now I kind of, when I'm doing nail art and I'm using the regular no wipe top coat rather than a rubber top coat, just float it on. But obviously, I've always said that when I'm working over nail art, I do love the rubber top coat. So hopefully a rubber top coat will come to the Hema free system as well in the near future. But I just float that on rather than brushing it in, because we want to get that nice super smooth surface where we've added the layer of hand painted nail art. On to our fourth ombre is one of my favorites that I don't do often enough, and that is a vertical ombre. So rather than come in horizontally across the nail, your ombre is going to run down the center. So you want to come in with your two gel polish colors and just come straight down the nail with those like so. This can be a little bit trickier, so I would say practice a regular ombre before moving on to the vertical ones. But same as before, we're going to come in with that ombre brush on the first coat. We're not going to stress about creating a perfect ombre. We're simply going to blend those two colors together. And here, what I was showing you what I do with a vertical ombre is I'll go in, blend, and then I'll turn my brush over and I'll blend again. And what that means is you've got the pink on one side of the brush and the lavender lust on the other. So if you turn it over, it helps take that color into the other color, if that makes sense. I'm sure it does. Then I'm just going to clean off my brush and clean up the blend a little bit just by going in here and there and using light strokes to create a nice transition or a nice fade in any areas that are looking a little bit patchy. So we're going to do the same again, apply our two colors on both sides. This is where it's very easy to pick up the other color. So I picked up a little bit of Barbie pink on to my lavender lust here. So what I'm going to do is Just wipe it off on an alcohol wipe, and then I just dry it on a kitchen roll paper towel sheet just before popping it back into my bottle. Then we're going to do the same again. So when I'm doing a vertical ombre as well, I'll keep my brush quite flat. So if you see on the others, I was holding my brush upright. With a vertical one, I'm keeping it quite flat to the nail, and I'm just kind of going down to begin with. And then I'm just going to blend those colors, that transitional shade, into the colors. So I'll either do this by doing it how I showed you on the first coat, by flipping the brush around so it takes those two colors naturally into one another, or I will just go backwards and forwards like we are here, just perfecting that blend by using up and down strokes with my brush, but keeping the strokes nice and light so we don't move that color around too much. And I was really happy with how these two colours blended together. It kind of gave me unicorn candy sort of vibes. I love these two shades in this collection. And then we're going to leave this one plain. We're not going to pop any nail art over the top of it, as I really loved how it looked. It just looked super dreamy. Just loved that blend. And honestly, a lot of the hard work comes from using the ombre brush. So if you are struggling with ombres and you don't have the ombre brush, if you were going to buy any brush, I would recommend that one. If you're struggling with ombres, if you're struggling with nail art, I'd highly recommend the stripe liner brush. So once again, we top coated that. And our last ombre is a raw glitter ombre. So of course you can do a gel polish on glitter ombre, but I wanted to stick with using the Hema free range today. So that was why we did a raw glitter one. But I love a raw glitter ombre. I think they look super, super pretty. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose our base colour, and we're going to do 2 thin coats of that. So I went for Barbie pink. As you can see, it looks super, super cute. You can see it a lot better here where we've just used it on its own. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Kiki London and Nail Art palette, and I'm going to take the Kiki London Hema free base coat. So I'm going to pop this down onto my palette. Now this isn't a rubber base coat, it's a classic base coat, which works a lot better for your raw glitters. Sometimes with a rubber base coat, they can be too thick, I find, to do raw glitter application with. So we've popped our glitter down into our base coat, and we're going to take the round brush and start mixing that glitter and base coat together. Now there was a bit more glitter to a base coat on my palette, so I've added in a little bit more base coat because you want to make sure that it's got a nice runny consistency. And then we're just going to keep with that round brush and start popping this down onto the tip of the nail and then blending it back. Now you could come in here with your ombre brush and feather it back if you wanted to, but because I was using quite a fine glitter mix, I didn't feel the need to. Now when you are adding raw glitter into gel polish, it's really important that you keep your layer nice and thin, because you're not encapsulating with a build gel. So you need to make sure that nothing is sticking up and nothing is going to feel bumpy. So I'm really taking the time with my brush to make sure that those pieces are laying as flat as possible. There's not too many bunching up, and then I'll pop this in for a 60-second cure rather than a 30-second cure, just because it's got that glitter mixed in with the gel polish. And then what I will do is I will take my base coat again and come over the top with a layer of base coat. Then this is going to help seal that in. It's going to give it an extra layer. If you don't want to use base coat, you could do 2 layers of top coat, but for some reason I find a layer of base coat and a layer of top coat works a lot better. You could also use a no wipe rubber top coat as well, but if you don't have a rubber top coat, this is the way that I would do it. This is how I used to top coat glitter in gel polish before having rubber top coat, and it works brilliantly. Just look how super smooth that looks. You could always buff it. If you did still have some glitter particles sticking up, you could give it a quick buff and then another layer of top coat, but that can be a little bit bulky. So that, guys, is the end of the video. Here is our 5 ombre designs. Comment below and tell me which one was your favorite. My favorite one was, it was hard, it was between the vertical ombre and the one with the foils and decals, but let me know what you thought of today's video. I really hope you all enjoyed watching. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment below and hit that subscription button if you haven't already. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Lots of love. Bye bye.